We are back. It's Ross from the Weekly Dice Arena with Game 2 of our first top 8 match. We got Arge versus Junior. If you haven't watched the first match, go back and do that. It was truly awesome. I won't even spoil who won it. We'll just jump right into match 2. We'll look at these teams again briefly, but again, in the first part of this video, I've already went through what I think about them. So let's look Arge's team. Blow! We got Danger Room, which we saw in Game 1. We didn't see Black Canary, and the Kree Captain combo really needed. Arge landing huge damage with Norman. Shriek out there. Scarlet Witch is atrocious for Junior and his team setup, which is heavily reliant on those actions. We got Wrecker. Didn't see the field with Wrecker. Of course, Junior's team not super global heavy, so we'll see if Collector Nobby craziness continues this game, or if he's going to have to transfer over here to this Black Canary Danger Room Kree Captain also craziness. Speaking of Junior's team, let's take a look at his just one more time. Again, we got this Yanti Pseudo Dragon, Zandala Simber, Gold Dragon, Attune Fest. Things start getting way out of hand. You know, each action could potentially be dealing, 6 or so damage. Billy Club was just used for the fixer. Green Devil Mask actually not utilized in the first game, but maybe Junior heads that way this game since, again, the larger the fields are, the better Arge's team performs. So, Green Devil Mask, I assume we'll be seeing some of that this game from Junior. His Attune was working until Scarlet Witch came out, so maybe a different Shriek target, maybe Breath Weapon 3. I know Gold Dragon just wasn't rolling in the first game, but we will hopefully see a little different direction from both players. I think they're definitely well played veterans of the game, super great pilots, and they will be adjusting, I think, in Game 2. Let's jump in and get it going. So it looks like Junior going to be going first. Sidekick. 2 sidekicks, those. A little more problematic, again, with only 1 energy fixer on the field. Does choose to field a sidekick. Spends 2 on a Yanti, which is pretty consistent with what we saw in Game 1. Arge's first turn. Both players having a better first turn than their previous game. If you watch Game 1, the shields were just overwhelming. Arge going straight for Scarlet Witch this game, which, really was the oppressive piece in terms of being directly against Junior's win condition. Both players banking a sidekick there they can fix down in later turns. Junior with 2 shields, 2 question marks. I think last game we saw him go for a second Yanti. Maybe it was a Pseudo Dragon next. He was forced to buy an investigation on turn 1, so that's a little bit different. But eventually those actions will need to be bought. I think he'd rather get them discounted with Cosmic Cube. Going to go straight for Zandala Simber next. Going to resurrect so that all these dice go back in the bag. He chooses 1 to prep for next turn. And over to Arge. Arge rolls his 4. Here comes the shield invasion again from Game 1. Luckily, he does have 1 bolt, which could be a Shriek. He needs 2 fists for the Kree Captain Global. That's eventually going to be his game plan to grab Collector as quick as possible. But again, the way Arge's team sort of works is you just control with villains. They just happen to be villains, and then you bring in Collector and then Norman Osborn on your opponent's turn, which is just gross. There's a single fist for Arge. Didn't get double fists, so Kree Captain not happening this turn. He's going to spin that sidekick down. Going to buy a Shriek for 3. Going to Villainous Pact. Prep 1. Over to Junior. Rolls both of his characters. Which at this point is great, except for he doesn't have any actions to trigger the Attune ability. It's interesting that Junior didn't go for Gold Dragon. I thought that might be his play this game. Breath Weapon 3 would remove Scarlet Witch and Shriek on all of their sides, if I'm not mistaken. Shriek on her top side is a 3/3. Scarlet Witch on her top side is a 5/3. But he decides to go the Attune route. Fields all his stuff. Preps a die for next turn. Over to Arge. So giant roll here for Arge. Gets his Shriek and Scarlet Witch. Let the oppression begin. The good news is that Junior has two good Shriek targets here. I think Yan T is maybe the fielded character that he'd want to blank, but he chooses to blank Shriek prior to Shriek even being bought, which makes sense. If you're the first one to field Shriek and Shriek is on the other side, kind of have to make that decision in terms of protecting your own Shriek. Over to Junior, he rolls 5 sidekicks. He also, again, could roll one of those sidekicks, or spin one of those sidekicks down with the Billy Club Global to get an extra mask. Now that the control pieces are out for Arge, we'll see if Junior transfers to a different sort of game plan, or if he's just going to forge ahead and try to muscle his way through Scarlet Witch. He doesn't have 2 fists, unfortunately, to use Kree Captain Global. Which I think has really been pivotal in both of these players so far. I don't think either player has rolled 2 fists on the same turn. Arge rolled 2 fists last turn, but he had to pay 2 to field Shriek and Scarlet Witch. Resurrects the Cosmic Cube straight over. Villainous Packs as well, over to Arge. Arge had to break a little bit of his ramp last turn by fielding both of his characters, but still has 5 to roll here. And now we have 2 fists. I have a sneaking suspicion Collector is on his way. Yep, Kree Captain's first. The next dice costs 3 less. Spends 2 on Collector. And resurrects 1 for next turn. Over to Junior. He rolls his Cosmic Cube, which is nice. He can start... except for Scarlet Witch. Again, the jam on his team. Gonna have to try to muscle it through and roll action twice in a row here. Does not get it. Double bolts is the next best thing, I suppose. If that Attune would have went off, could have removed either Scarlet Witch or Shriek with the help of the Danger Room Global. Pay 1 bolt, deal 1 damage to target villain, which Scarlet Witch and Shriek are both villains. Spins down a sidekick. Buys a Pseudo Dragon for 2. Buys an Investigation for 3. Resurrects and Villainous Pact, both of those dice over. So super great bag management here from Junior. I actually played Junior in round 3 of Swiss, and it was the same thing. Just ultra good dice counting, knowing what's in his bag, being able to pull what he wants every turn. It does look like he's just going to go for the muscle through Scarlet Witch. Arge's turn, he's rolling 5, including his Collector. So Collector plus some fists would start the damage. At this point, each Norman Osborn, once the Collector's fielded, would be dealing 4 damage to Junior. Just tends to add up quickly when you can do that on your turn and your opponent's turn. We haven't seen a Danger Room purchased yet, which is really when the damage from Arge gets mega amplified, because every character gains the villain affiliation. 2 masks and a bolts. Probably not the energy he wanted to see here. I assume he wanted another fist to do Norman Osborn shenanigans on his and Junior's turn. Bolts are good in terms of potentially using Danger Room Global or purchasing a Danger Room. Pays a mask to field Collector. So awkwardness here. He's got a Villainous Pact with his one mask. I was thinking if he purchases a Danger Room, he gets no prep for next turn because he has to keep this fist to do Collector shenanigans, as we're about to see. 1, 2, 3, 4 to Junior. First blood goes to Arge. Passes turn. Doesn't even attack. So perfect bag management here from Junior. He must reroll his cube, and he can't reroll his investigation. I'd really like to get Pseudo Dragon out here to double effectively his attune damage if it so happens to go off. Cube comes up double energy again. He does get the Pseudo Dragon, which again is sort of a moot point until Scarlet Witch is gone. Which again could be using Danger Room Global to knock Scarlet Witch out. But maybe he sees things that I don't. Spends 2 on a Yanti, spends 3 on investigation. Has a question mark left. I assume it's going to be a prep. There we go. He's going to spin a mask down so he can Villainous Pact and Resurrect. Preps 2 dice for next turn. We'll see. 5 sidekicks for Arge. The idea being getting at least 2 fists here. He's got 2 fists sitting right there, as well as investigation plus Villainous Pact. Maybe that's the nuts. We'll see if he chooses to re-roll that. Not loving it. Gonna re-roll those 3. Mask, shield. Literally the same energies. Mask, shield, sidekick again. Wild. Arge doing his fair share of dice counting as well, seeing what's in his bag, seeing if he needs to do double prep or not. Field to sidekick, Villainous Pacts. Just something to note for players maybe not familiar with Villainous Pact and Resurrection at the same table. You have to Villainous Pact first because your prep area has to be empty in order to use Villainous Pact. So you have to Villainous Pact first, then Resurrect. Brings in Nabi, takes Junior takes 4 more. And chooses not to attack again. Arge keeping that second fist to deal another 4 damage to Junior on his turn. It's going to come down to if any of these attunes can go off, he will be able to remove Scarlet Witch, at least for the remainder of the turn. He's got to reroll the investigation one more time, though. Again, shout-outs to WizKids for these beautiful golden sidekicks. They were the participation prize for this year's Nationals. Looking good, sitting in the reserve pool there. Oh my, investigation rolls. We are going to have some attune happening. Plays investigation. Trying to decide on a target here for investigation, or for the attune damage. So he's got 2 attune from Yanti and 2 attune from Zendala Simber. He hits the Collector for 4 damage. Also, another 4 from the second investigation. So that's gonna save him the 4 damage that Arge would have done at the end of Junior's main step. He gets his Cosmic Cube and another sidekick, interestingly enough. Gonna activate Cosmic Cube. Gets to do another 4 attune damage. Gonna deal that damage to Scarlet Witch. Fields 2 sidekicks. Pays 4 for Green Devil Mask. Here we go. This is the play that I wanted to see. Super excited. Because now that 2 characters have been knocked out, that Green Devil Mask is going to be hard to dance around for Arge. So, first roll here for Arge. Doesn't get his Scarlet Witch. Does get Collector. So his damage source is back. His control, though, if that Scarlet Witch doesn't come back, with as many actions now that Junior has, his attune is very strong. Arge's bag management is good enough to get Scarlet Witch back, possibly the following turn, but really, even just Scarlet Witch not being there for 1 turn is going to be huge for Junior's game plan. Especially now that he's bought another action, Green Devil Mask. Arge going to go with the almost full reroll, keeping the Collector, dropping everything else, really hoping for Scarlet Witch. She is back. She is back. Now, the good news here, though, for Junior, is that Arge only has 1 fist. So he can only use Collector's ability to bring in Norman Osborn 1 time over the next 2 turns. Or his turn and Junior's turn. Fielding cost on Scarlet Witch and Collector just happen to be 0. Pretty lucky there for Arge. Not that he really has super great use for the rest of these dice. You can see that he's laid away a mask and a shield. I assume that's for Resurrection Shield and a Villainous Pact Mask. Sorry, opposite way. Like I said, got a Villainous Pact first. But with 2 bolts, a shield, and a question mark. I mean, we know how he's going to spend the question mark, in theory. We're not exactly sure how he's going to spend bolt, shield. He doesn't necessarily need any more dice. If he was to buy another villain, his damage would move along a little quicker. But I don't know. Looking back at his team, I mean, he could go Kree Captain, but that would also cost a fist. So it won't be that. Could purchase Danger Room here. He could go for an investigation. I mean, just to really speed his bag up. So he does spend 2 on a Danger Room. Gonna spin a sidekick down to a mask. Using the Billy Club Global. He's contemplating spending that shield. He does on a second Danger Room. Really wants to, I think now that Green Devil Mask is in the equation, he really needs to escalate his pace here. So again, Junior's field's going to remain large, which makes Danger Room good. But if Arge has to re-roll his entire field, the game could simply be over with a couple of tune hits and a no field, or a small field. Deals 4 more to Junior with the Collector ability. Attacks with the sidekick, trying to keep his field under 4. Because again, for those that may not know as well, the Green Devil Mask says it's a trap, gets placed in the field when it's played. When your opponent has 4 or more active character dice, it triggers, and the effect is your opponent must re-roll all of their active character dice. Move any that roll energy to the used pile, not to KO, to the used pile. It is a dirty, dirty die. in terms of busting up big fields and important fields like Arge's. Now, the interesting part here is if Green Devil Mask rolls, it won't instantly trigger. It will trigger when Norman Osborn gets fielded, which means the damage will be dealt from Norman. However, afterwards, the field will be gone. Scarlet Witch is back, so he's got to reroll Green Devil Mask. He does get a Yanti, which could be important in terms of pushing with his whole field. Gonna choose to reroll a hefty amount of this roll. Spending a lot of time mixing these babies up. Really wants a quality roll here. Yanti comes up double energy. Can't see the Green Devil Mask just yet. Comes up double energy. Not what Junior was looking for. Scarlet Witch just paying dividends here. So now Junior just left with tons of energy. Now, something to note is he does have plenty of bolts here to use that Danger Room Global. I think he's just overlooking it at this point. Because that attune damage that he got a few turns ago, he used to remove Collector, or deal the damage to Collector, and Scarlet Witch. Effectively, he could knock out Scarlet Witch here. Or Shriek and purchase his own Shriek. Just some options in terms of making Arge reroll some dice. So otherwise, the clock is ticking in terms of damage output. 4 damage for each Norman Osborn that's fielded by Arge. He also has those 2 danger rooms coming through his bag, which at this point is going to be deadly damage because of how large Junior's field is. Junior taking his time here. This is a pretty pivotal turn in terms of how will this game end up. Also things to think about in top 8 when it's a best of 3 series. You still have a time limit for the whole series. So it's not a time limit per game. It's a time limit per series or set of matches. So I would assume that they are reaching fairly close to the end of time for the series. So if Junior was to win this game, they'd be in a pinch for a game 3 or time to really get any of that moving. Junior rifling through all of the possibilities, trying to make the most efficient decisions, which makes sense at this level of play. The top 8 of a national competition. Really a shame that Green Devil Mask didn't roll twice. But again, that's the power of Scarlet Witch. Green Devil Mask would have, again, prevented Arge from using Norman Osborn more than one time without having to re-roll his whole field. I mean, maybe he goes for another Green Devil Mask here. Tries to resurrect it over, depending on bag stuff. Green Devil Mask is a mask character, so he has a few of those to deal with, especially because he can roll down a sidekick to a mask as well. So gonna move to attacks, not gonna purchase anything, not going to resurrect, just gonna move to combat, pushing with 5 characters. So there will be some damage dealt here to Arge. But with Arge still being at 20 health, he can just afford to take all this damage if he wants. He could use it to strategically knock something out, but he really can't afford to lose his Shriek or his Scarlet Witch or his Collector. So I think this is just going to be as much damage as showing. There's no pump globals on the table. Nothing to make this any scarier than it looks on the surface. Arge wants to bounce as many of these characters as he can, though, in terms of keeping the fields large so that Danger Room is even more effective. Also, at this point, the judge has called time. So we have 5 turns that begin now. Junior's turn currently right now is turn 0. So Junior will get effectively the end of this turn plus 2 more. Arge will get 2 more turns. So here we are. Oh. He's going to put 3 damage from the Collector, or sorry, with the Danger Room Global to Collector. So that was the shakeup that Junior needed for sure. Again, he's putting that 50-50 back into Arge's court. Arge sort of has been putting Junior in this rough spot of, hey man, let's see if you can reroll all your stuff. But now Arge is in that position of having to reroll everything. He does get his Scarlet Witch. He does get a Danger Room. He needs Collector here and Fists to close out the game. Again, this is turn 1 out of a 5-turn finale here to this game 2. So Arge's second to last turn. Let's see if Collector comes up double mask, which is super good news for Junior. So this puts Arge in an awkward situation now. He can't Collector. So like Danger Room would be super nice here if Collector was there. But without Collector, the Danger Room is a moot point. Especially since there's not a Kree Captain or something, or Black Canary that says villains can't block. Turning everything to a villain is sort of all for naught on this turn. Well, I guess there is one upside. So once everything is a villain, then Arge can spend bolts to deal damage to it with the Danger Room Global. The good news for Arge is he got his Scarlet Witch back, which is really the oppressive piece for Junior, who only gets 2 more turns. If you've made it this far in the video, I will officially spoil that Arge won game 1. So if this happens to go to the end of turn 5, he will be the winner. If my understanding is correct. So Arge doing his fair share of contemplating all of his options now that Junior has shaken up his board. Let's see what we choose to do. He's just shifting it all around, counting things in his bag, counting his options of what to purchase. He's going to use a Masked Villainous pack first, which again has to happen before Resurrection. Gonna resurrect. So now he knows for sure he's getting those 2 dice out of his bag. Now he can make sort of next turn preparations, knowing full well what's going to be in prep and what's going to be in his bag. He plays the 2 danger rooms to really no effect. Passes priority. Junior passes back. No attacks are assigned. Junior's going to be busting some major attune if he can get them to fire off. 2 of his actions come up double energy and must remain that way. He is going to have to re-roll the 1 investigation that did come up. Let's see if he gets it. He does. Interesting. Plays investigation. Deal 4 attune damage. Let's see what his 2 targets are, technically with the 2 attune each. He's going to deal that damage to Arge. On the board at 16. Green Devil Mask also rolls. Deals another 4 to Arge with that attune damage. Again, this is turn 2, which means this is Junior's second to last. Oh, no. Yeah, second to last turn. He'll be turn 2 and turn 4. Arge will be turn 3 and turn 5, the final turn. Uses 2 energies to prep 2 with the Villainous Pact and Resurrection. So I think the only out here is... I mean, if Arge... So Arge has to get a Danger Room next turn, plus Collector, plus a Fist. I think is the only way to deal enough damage. He only gets 1 shot at the Collector's ability because of Green Devil Mask being in the field of Junior. Passes priority, passes back. No attackers assigned. Over to Arge, who pulls 2 dice. He needs a Danger Room, and he needs Collector here, I think. It is noteworthy that Arge gets this turn plus 1 more. So left in his bag is a Collector and another Danger Room. So it might be sort of a setup turn for Arge. He'd really like to not get attuned to death next turn, but he doesn't have the pieces in play right now to finish it, in my opinion. Of course, Arge, a thrifty man in terms of this game. He might make anything work. You just never know. It's also noteworthy that Junior has kept 3 bolts, which is enough to knock out Scarlet Witch or Shriek. I imagine Scarlet Witch would be the target. And we're... Arge... And that's the game. Arge takes it. And we move back to... Wow. Deep breath there at the end. That was a squeaker went to turns, which it should have. I mean, 2 super quality teams piloted by 2 super quality players. It was really fun to watch. Glad I got to be there for that. Some Collector shenanigans. Scarlet Witch definitely pulling her weight. But congrats to both of those players. Played awesome. Junior knocked out. Arge moving on to the round of 4, which we will have here shortly. So if you're enjoying the coverage and you'd like to support, hit up one of these social medias or both. Leave a comment. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you didn't like. Misplays, misspoke, all of the above. Thanks for being here and thanks for watching. And until next time, peace.